Okay, next slide. So if you haven't already, please fill out the survey that was sent out multiple times by us and Annalisa. We're closing it tomorrow at midnight. So yeah, Christian will send in the link. It's super important that you fill it out, please. We're conducting a department-wide surveys just to see how COVID-19 is affecting students. And there are going to be 20 gift cards to Starbucks that will randomly give out to those who fill it out. And so far, 27 people have filled it out, so you have a pretty high chance of receiving one if you fill it out. So, and also remember to write your email at the end of the form. There's like a separate form like attached to it, just so like the survey can remain anonymous, but we'll have your emails just so we can send you the Starbucks gift card. Don't forget to do that because some people have forgotten. And we just want to say thank you to Jose, Fernanda, Carmen, Lauren, Michelle, and Dung for volunteering for the COVID project. It's gonna be like a really quick thing. You know, this project isn't gonna, you know, be like months long. You know, it's just gonna be super quick. So thank you guys for volunteering. And the next one, we have another opportunity for students who are interested in getting involved and gain some practical experience. So there are a few members of our department who are involved with Healthy Campus on this metrics subcommittee. And the idea is to hopefully be able to create small teams to focus on different questions from the data that they might have. And unlike the COVID project, hopefully we'll be able to make this long-term and HIS members would be able to participate and gain some experience, maybe like a leadership role, and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, if you want, you can think of this as like an internship because you'll be gaining like practical experience that you can like highlight on your resumes or even grad applications and whatnot. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, just as a quick side note, I think it was like 2 years ago, I applied to be an intern at Healthy Campus and I didn't get it. And now we're basically handing it to you for free. So definitely take that opportunity.
So we sent out the event coordinator position through our email. And like we said last meeting, it would be great to have another member on the team. Anyone can apply, but I want to emphasize this position specifically to first and second years who want to get more involved with this. Lauren, for example, Lauren Flummer has been an officer since she was a first year, so she has a lot of experience on her belt and she can make it better for next year. The application is super short. I think it's like 2 questions. So if you have time. Trey, can you mute yourself, please? It's all good.
I'm very sorry about that.
We can, yeah, we're ending the application by the end of week 4. So please, if you're even the slightest bit interested, go ahead and fill it out. And we would love to have you on the HIS officer team. Christian just recently made a Discord server for the club. Before we just communicated through GroupMe, but this year we're trying out Discord so we can have a bunch of different channels. So they're like dedicated to separate like stat classes. So can you send that in the chat? So we'll see how that works out. I see people are typing in the chat, but I can't see it. Okay. That's all. And then I'll just hand it over to Gideon. He's going to talk a little bit about the R Geospatial Club.
Cool, thank you. I'll share my screen a second. Yeah, my name is Gideon Kinseyhover. I'm a fourth year physics and applied mathematics major. And I'm here representing the R Geospatial Club. I'm actually here with Jonathan Young, who is a member of this club and kind of set this whole thing up. So I don't know if you can introduce yourself, Jonathan, or if you even need to. I don't know.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm a third year statistics and Chinese double major, and I'm the vice president of R Geospatial.
Yeah, so together we kind of represent the officer board of short 1 or 2 members. We represent the officer board of the GIS club on campus. But yeah, we're just here to talk about the club, to see if anyone's interested. And the first thing for that is, what is GIS? GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. And it's a collection of technologies which use computing methods to map, analyze, and retrieve location-based data. The whole point behind GIS is that it's a framework for spatial data, which allows users to gain insights into trends and patterns in data that would otherwise go unnoticed. Membership is available to all currently registered UCR students, and that includes grad students, and we also, hold on, yep, going all the way back. And the applications for GIS are pretty much ubiquitous. They apply to every major, every career path, which makes it a really useful thing on applications or resumes. Anytime you have some sort of GIS experience that you can apply to your specific major or career field, that really looks good in your selection process. So specifically, how does it relate to statistics? Jonathan, I don't know if you want to go into this specifically, as you are a stats major.
Okay, I'll take it from here. In terms of GIS, the biggest part is understanding spatial analysis, which is how we understand our world through mapping where things are, how they relate, what it all means, and what actions to take. And by turning a map into information through finding patterns, assessing trends, or making decisions, this is spatial analysis. So in terms of applications to different fields, we have data science, where you can use location, distance, and spatial interactions as core aspects of the data through software to apply to spatial use cases. Or you can use it in biostatistics, where you use statistics with biology through experiments, where you collect and analyze the data. Or you can also use it in epidemiology, where GIS analyzes geographic distribution of diseases throughout time to understand spatial spread and dynamics and create health policies to respond to those issues.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the member benefits are kind of just what we covered earlier. It's just being well-versed. Being well-versed in GIS or having that skill set is a benefit to your professional and career goals. But specifically being a member, we kind of give you opportunities to explore that in the career sense. So we offer education and training. We have alerts to professional opportunities, and let's see, we have access to assisted learning, wait for it, in different platforms as there are a multitude of platforms. And then we have access to the larger community in and around UCR. If you're interested, we've got a we've got you can contact us by email or through Instagram, and our Highlander link is active. So if you have any questions, you can contact us through those. And I'm not sure how much time we've burnt already, but we did want to open it up to questions if anyone had them about specific applications in GIS and statistics. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and let us know.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So like, is there like a preferred year we should like maybe try and join? Because like I'm a first year and I still haven't taken any like, real concrete statistics or data science courses yet. So is it important to have like prior experience before I try and apply?
That's a great question. And the answer is definitely no. So basically the GIS itself it uses all those tools, but you do not have to be an expert in any of those tools to use GIS. Having an understanding, and especially if you want to get involved in like back-end stuff, data science and analysis is becoming a really big thing in GIS. And so there are tools within GIS that you can use that employ that. But if you want to get into like a career path that develops those tools, then you absolutely can, but you don't need experience for it. So we would encourage you to join if you're interested in visualizing data in a spatial sense, or any sort of professional career that really just manipulates data on the geospatial scale. So I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Cool.
We have a question in the chat. It was, do you guys have any projects you're currently working on or that you plan on working on?
Yeah, so well, every year we have roughly one project a year that's kind of like an event-based thing. There's a GIS day in the fall, and we were playing with the idea of doing a mapathon, which is kind of coordinating volunteers to map an unmapped region. And that's basically just using GIS tools to turn satellite imagery into kind of what you interact with in Google Maps. We're still going to be active on GIS Day, but that is not our current project. Really what we're focused on at the moment is education. So if you have a specific project or research that you're interested in, or you have questions on how to apply GIS to your projects, then we are really excited to like help you learn about that. And also, it's important to mention that it's such a the community in GIS is so cross-sectional among all majors that it's kind of like it's just a learning community across the board. So there are going to be a lot of people who aren't stats majors who will be curious about your guys' methods and what you know and what you can teach them, and vice versa. Hopefully you'll run into people that will know things outside of your world, and so maybe you'll learn something from them.
Oh, awesome. Is there any other questions?
Jonathan just said that you can access GIS through Aporto as a UCR student, and it's free and included with their club fees.
Yeah, so there's no basically access to most of the highest end GIS tech on the market. Esri is like I think they have like an 86% share of the market as far as tech is concerned, and we have free access to it as students, all of us. So, and that like translates to it's like a few $100s worth of subscription fees annually. So definitely take advantage of it if you can. And if you need any help figuring out how to do that, feel free to message any of us in the club.
Do you guys want to go ahead and drop like your email or anything so people can reach you? You can just go ahead and throw it in the chat, and then you can send it out to us, and we'll send it out when we have our next email.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll type it up in the chat, and if there are no other questions, thank you guys so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, 1 second. We're just gonna go back to the slides real quick. You said Healthy Campus?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that anyone is welcome to join the metrics subcommittee, because I think we just need as much help as possible, specifically with just cleaning the data and finding descriptive statistics. So it's not anything super like complicated. And if you feel like you aren't like experienced enough, or you're new, like I promise you won't be alone. Like we'll be here to guide you through it. And then there's also Dr. Zhu, Kurum, and Dr. Flores that will guide you along the way. So if you're the slightest bit interested, reach out to us. Or if you want to stick around at the end of the meeting, we can talk about it a little bit more. Am I missing anything? Okay. We can move on to the Python workshop now that Christian and Jose will present.
Let's do it. All right, so while I get this set up, can everyone in the chat just do me a favor? Press 0 if you've never coded before, 1 if you've coded but not in Python, and then 2 if you've used Python before, just so I can see where everyone's at.
Our studio counts, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So let me get this set up. All right, so I'll go ahead and share this. So it's just a quick PowerPoint before we get into everything. I just want to go over what coding is, because I imagine there's some people here who've never done it before. So what is programming? So programming is just basically doing things with data, and data is just information, and information can look like a lot of different things. We can view it, store it, change it, erase it. We can do a lot of different things with data. So like I said, here's some of the different shapes and sizes data might come in. We can have like a music file. So anytime you download an MP3, that's data. We have images, a Word document, but all of these like bigger forms of data come from building blocks. So they're all made up of smaller pieces. And today we're going to go over those smaller pieces. So that's going to be the basic data types. So I'm not sure how many of you actually went and got Anaconda. If you have it, then you can follow along. If not, I'll show you what you can do instead. So let me share my screen. So if you don't have Anaconda installed, you can go to this website right here. It's going to be repl.it, and then you can do /language or /python3. And this is just like a Python environment that you can code in. So you'll be able to follow along here. And then anytime you want to code, so you could just do like a print. And if you press run, it'll run in the right-hand side right here. So I'm going to go ahead and work in Anaconda, which is just like another environment. But if you don't have it, just feel free to go to this website or any Python website, and you'll be able to follow along. All right. So for those of you who have Jupyter Notebook or Anaconda installed, go ahead and make a new file. And I'll just call it whatever. We'll call it workshop 1. I misspelled that, but that's okay. So like I said, we're going to start with the simple building blocks of data. So the first building block we're going to start with is going to be words or text. What this is going to do is it's just going to store symbolic, character symbols. So how we speak in English, you can just go ahead and store that in. Well, let me back up a bit. So what this equal sign does is we have these things called variables. if you've ever coded, or sorry, if you've ever coded, you know what a variable is. If you've never coded before, you can think about your high school math class. In high school math, you had X and Y, and X and Y could take pretty much whatever they wanted. In code, it's not too far off. So it's just a slot in your computer, and you can fill that slot with whatever you want. So in this case, what we're doing is we're filling that slot with text. In this case, it's going to be the text that says this is a word. And then we have another variable right here that says this is also a word. So we're just storing the sentence into something. And if we want to see what that sentence is, then we can use print and then parentheses. And inside, we just put my word or whatever your variable is. And then when you run it, which you could just press right here, it'll print right here, this is a word. So all we did is we stored English text into a variable. Now the thing about computers is computers don't have brains. So you have to explicitly tell a computer what you want. So in this case, the way we can explicitly tell a computer what we want to store is a word is we use either the single quotes or the double quotes. And this just lets the computer know that, hey, I'm storing text inside this variable. Because we could have a situation like this. So now we're going to look at another data type, and this is going to be numbers. So right here we have, I call it my integer, and then my decimal. So what we're doing here is we're storing a number. And the reason we want to differentiate numbers and characters is because what if we want to do something like add a number? Well, the computer has to know that what you want to add is a number. So let's say I do this. So what are we telling the computer right here? We're telling the computer that we're adding, or sorry, we're telling the computer that we're storing the character 1, but we're not storing the number 1. So if we want to store the number 1, we just leave off the quotes. You can see in my integer, this is going to be 1. So what happens if I try to add the two? So we're going to print the results of my num and my integer. I'm going to run that, and we get this big old block, and the computer's freaking out. The reason the computer's freaking out is because it doesn't know how to add a word with a number, because that doesn't make any sense. You don't add words and you don't add numbers together. So we need to tell the computer explicitly what this is. So if we say just regular 1 without the quotes, and we run it again, then we get 2. And this is because the computer knows, okay, we have 2 numbers that we're adding together. So the 2 main data types right now are going to be characters, or strings as we're going to call them, and then numbers. And then within numbers, we can have 2 kinds of numbers. We can have integers, and we can have decimals. So decimals, otherwise known as floating point numbers, they're just, it's just the computer is going to add them in a different way. So you have to explicitly tell it that it's a decimal number. And to do that, you just put the decimal right here, and Python knows how to figure it out. So one last simple data type we're going to go over is going to be Booleans. So how many of you have ever taken a true or false test? I'm guessing everybody here. This is all a Boolean is. It's just going to be a variable that either has true or false. And another way we can represent true or false is 0 or 1. So in this case, 0 will evaluate to false, and 1 will evaluate to true. And these are going to be really useful when we talk about if statements, because the power of a computer and a program is that you can have it do different things depending on different cases. So you, for example, if you're building like a walking simulator, if the person presses left, then you can go left. And that's what these are going to come in handy for. So these are really simple, just going to be true or false, 0 or 1. And then if we print this, then you'll see that the Python command line is just going to print true. So let's go over some basic operators. These are all just going to be like your simple calculator functions. So if you've ever used a calculator, you'll probably be familiar with these. So we can add 2 numbers by using the plus sign. We can subtract 2 numbers by using the minus sign. We can multiply 2 numbers together using the asterisk. Divide is going to be the slash. Power, we're going to use 2 asterisks together. And then we can talk about the mod a little later. And this is going to be the ampersand sign. So these are some basic math operators. And you can just do math by itself. So you could do 1 + 2. And if you print this, it'll print 3. But what's going on here is that we are adding two numbers and then storing the result into a variable. So on that subject, we could also do this. We could do var is equal to add plus sub. And what we're doing here is we're adding two variables together. So if we run that and then we print var, it's going to evaluate to 4, because what happened? Well, we stored 1 in here in sub and then 3 in here. So just went ahead and added them together. So that's how we're able to keep track of all our things. And then, like I said before, these are the main basic data types that we're going to want to know. It's going to be words or strings. It's going to be numbers. And then there's going to be decimals and integers. And then Booleans, which is just true or false. And then just using these three, we can pretty much build onto our programs. And that's how we're able to represent all these other more complex data types. So that's how you get things like images, waveforms, different things like that. And then if you haven't figured it out, anytime you want to see the results of a variable, you would just call the print function. So you can go ahead and do that. And whatever variable you place inside, it'll just go ahead and print it to your console. So you can make sure everything's working the way you think it should. All right, so now I'm going to pass it to Jose, and he's going to talk about if statements.
Perfect. Thank you, Christian. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I guess we'll start with conditionals then. Were there any questions beforehand before Christian hands it off to me? From anybody, any questions? All right, cool, there's no questions. All right. Is it better than C++? It's simpler, you know, I'll say that. It's not as fast, but it's much simpler and easier syntax. All right. So conditionals, they're pretty much a way to check something. You know, if a statement happens, you tell the computer, oh, if this happens, then do that. Or if not this, then do that, then do that. It's pretty much if X happens, then do Y in a way. And let's see, is the code right there? Yeah, okay, let's see. So you can do comparison operators. So it's pretty much like middle school algebra when something is greater or less than. So right here, Christian put down in Jupyter Notebook the greater and less than sign, the greater and equal sign, which is the alligator mouth with the equal sign to make it greater or equal to, and likewise with the lesser than or equal to. Yeah, and he's gonna print something real quick. So the double equal sign. If you want to make sure something checks, you have to make it double equal sign to make sure. So if so let's say you have a variable that equals 2, and you want to know if it does in fact equal 2, you have an if statement. So it'll be like x equals 2 in a way. And yeah. Oh, exactly. And if you have it as a, yeah, go. You were gonna.
I was just gonna add. So when you do these operators, the greater than, less than. So when you print it, it returns true. And the reason it does that is because this just gives you a true or false depending on whether it's true or not. So it's gonna give you back a Boolean, which is this data type right here.
Yep. That was the last part. All right. So let's see. Oh, next block, yeah. So use your, like I said before, use your if statement when you want your code to run a certain condition. So in this example that we have here, we have if user number is less than 0, we print out you entered a negative number, which makes sense, right? Because if it's less than 0, it'd be a negative. Let's see, your name is not defined. Okay, well, that's not good. So actually, this error was if you don't define a variable. This is a good example. If you don't define a variable, it'll give you this error, which is the name error, because it wasn't named before, so it doesn't exist, so you can't do anything with it.
So I just ran it, and because 1 is greater than 0, this didn't run, so nothing happened because it never went inside this if.
And then that's what we have else statements too after this. Yeah. Exactly, yes. Because it's -1 instead of 1, and it checked off the if statement, it'll give you this statement that printed out. You enter a negative number. So next block. All right, so we're doing else and else ifs. All right, so you use else if you want to handle multiple alternative conditions. So if you want to check if something equals something else, or let me see the example real quick. So if user number equals less than 0, you enter a negative number. It makes sense. If else, okay. So in here for this else if statement, he used the double equal sign, which is what we call check. So it checks something else. So if first the computer will go to the if statement, and if it fails that, it'll go to the else if, and it'll check if it does check that, and if it doesn't, it'll go straight to the else. So the else is kind of like the last possible check before anything gets run. So yeah, since it passed the first check, it would say you entered a negative number. But if you change it to 0 on top, yeah, and then run it on the next one, you get the else if statement because it's the other check that has. It's kind of like a second if within its own little statement. So it will tell you it entered 0. And yeah, and then he put above for user number equals 100. So the last possible statement after it checks if f is true, and then if else f is true, it'll go to the very last one, which is else, which is you didn't enter a negative number because it's 100. So think of if and else ifs and else as like multiple gateways kind of to get something done in your program. So if the if fails, it goes straight to else if, and if the else if fails, it goes straight to the else. Cool.
All right, so let's do a couple exercises to see how everyone's doing. So the first thing I want to do is let's go ahead and review how we can add two numbers together and store them into a variable. So I'm just going to have my var, and then we can go ahead and do 1 plus 2. And then when we print the result, then we should get 3. And that's exactly what we get. So something else we can do is we can say my new var, we'll make another variable, and we can use the result of a previous variable to make a new one. As I said, you can always change your variables. So if we print that, we should get 6. Now I want to ask everybody a question. I'm going to declare a variable. We'll say my bool. This will be a Boolean variable, and we're going to make it false. What do you think is going to happen when I print my var plus my bool? If you have any ideas, you can feel free to share them in the chat or talk. But earlier we had seen that when I tried to add a string and a number, it didn't work. Everyone thinks it's an error? Okay. So if I print this, I get this result right here at the bottom. It's going to be 3. The reason it's 3 is because we can also represent our Boolean as a 0 or a 1. So because Python is smart enough to figure it out, it'll go through and it'll say, okay, my var plus my bool, this is actually also my var plus 0. So Booleans are a little different than strings in that sense, in that you can add numbers and Booleans together, because we can just change a Boolean into a 0 or a 1. On the other hand, like I'd mentioned before, if we try to do something like my var plus hello, Python freaks out. It doesn't know how to add a number in a word. Cool. All right. So now we have another exercise we can do, and we're going to make a code chunk that only runs if the input is greater than 50. So I'll let Jose take this one, but I'll go ahead and type for you.
All right. I mean, I can't type because it's on your screen. So
Yeah, I'll go ahead and type for you. Don't worry.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, everyone can try it on your own, and then we'll give it to you in about a minute. And then in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to ask or open them up in the chat, and I'll look at them. Oh yeah, if I go on a little side note, someone had mentioned in the chat this is better than C++. Python's really cool because it's really easy to use, but it's also really versatile, and that you can pretty much do whatever you want in it. So you can build websites. Right now I'm making a game in Python. You can do data science. There's like a different ton of things you can do. So Python is, if you're gonna learn a coding language, I would honestly say Python is the one to learn because you can pretty much do most things with it. So we had a question in the chat that said, how do you ask for user input again? So we are just going to use the input function. We're going to want to store that result in a variable. So I'll just call it x is equal to inputs. Now, a tricky thing about the input function is it's going to read it as a word. So you need to be able to tell Python that, hey, we want a number. To do that, we're just going to use the int parentheses. And what this will do is if they put in the symbol for like the number 1, it'll change it into a number, and then you'll be able to add it. Does that answer your question? Cool. That's okay. All right, we'll go ahead and everyone good on time, or should we give you a little more? All right, we'll go ahead and start coding the answer. So Jose, you want to walk us through it?
Of course, it will be my honor. I mean, do you want me to say it out loud? Like,
yeah, just say it out loud and I'll type it.
I mean, you can just print it. You can just print it out, and I can just explain it step by step.
Okay, that works too.
Yeah. Okay. So the exercise, the question is, make a code chunk that only runs if the input is greater than 50. So like Christian previously said about the input thing, whatever you put into whatever you assign to the variable that asks for an input, it'll be an automatic string, and a string is pretty much a word in a way. Just think of string as a word for this example. So you have to convert it immediately after into an integer, which is why we would have x equals input integer. So whatever you put in, so let's say you put in like 2, Python would read it as a string of 2, or like just like the quotations put 2. So you have to convert it into an integer, which is why you have int right there. So yeah, it'll make an error because we didn't make an else or else if statement. But if we had a number that is greater than 50, so if we tried 51.
Give me 0. 1 second. I didn't put anything in.
Try putting the int outside of the input.
Oh, you're right. Might be.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
So we need to take in the input first. Oh, yeah, and one more thing in computer programming, order matters. It's incredibly important. So anything you do, you need to do it in order. So first we need to take the input from the user, get the number they asked for, and then we go ahead and convert it into a number. That's a good catch.
So yeah, if you have 51 now, it should work. There you go. Yeah. So this if statement asks if the variable is equal to 50, which if you're doing a comparison, it should be the same data type. So integers for integers, or you can technically do integers and floats, but you want to keep in the same data type. It'll print out this number is greater than 50. So this is how you solve this problem.
Wait, how do you input stuff?
If you type in input, it'll just it'll prompt you in Jupyter Notebook to like type something in. and then from there, whatever you typed in, whichever number you type in, it'll convert it through the integer function, I guess, or built-in function. Does that answer your question, or?
Are you using Notebook or something else?
No, I'm using Jupyter.
Okay, so when you have this line right here, it should be int parentheses input. Go ahead and press Control Enter, and you'll get this line right here. Then you can go ahead and enter your number. So if I enter 2, then it works. Nothing happens because 2 is not greater than 50, so nothing's going to print. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Do we have any other questions?
Can you explain why when you're using your ifs and else you have colons at the end of your line, but not
Yeah.
like after any other thing?
Yeah, okay. So the way the colon works, so we have our if, and then we have whatever we want to be true or false, and then we put the colon, and then we indent it. The reason we indent it is because everything inside the indentation is going to run. So for example, if I put print hello, this will run no matter what X is, because I put it outside the indentation in the colon. So the computer is always going to go through. So if I put 2, we still get this hello, because the computer is only going to perform this, whatever is inside here, if the indentation is there. Otherwise, like I said, it just goes in order. So what the colon does is it kind of like tells the computer, okay, this is the branch. Do everything that's indented if this is true, and then it'll stop from there. Does that make sense?
All right, yeah, thank you.
No problem. So yeah, I guess another thing with, if I go ahead and do print hello in here, this will only run if the if statement is true. So if I do it again, when I put in 2, then you see we don't get this hello, because it's inside the indentation. So if this isn't true, then none of this will run. That was a good question. Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
All right.
So we're wrapping up now. That's all we had for today. We wanted to keep things really simple since we figured some people have never seen code before. But Python is pretty nice because of all the languages, it's the closest to English in that everything just kind of like looks nice and makes sense. So this will be the basic building blocks of any more complicated program we're going to want to do. Next time, we're going to tackle some more complicated things, such as what happens if you put an if statement inside another if statement. We'll learn about that in our next workshop. And then eventually we'll be able to build up to some bigger things. And like I said, Python's really cool because you can do like a lot of different things with it. You can make games, make websites, go through large amounts of data. You just want to make sure you know the fundamentals first. And then, do you have anything to add, Jose?
No, that was pretty solid. I got one question for the audience, actually. Were we too quickly or too fast with our explanations?
Well, I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I want to print something after an else statement, how do you separate it? Like something to always print.
Oh, you just don't indent it.
So, like up here, if you wanted to always print something?
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's not indented.
Yeah, if you don't indent it, this will always run. So
Okay.
this will always run. Because what's going on is the computer is going in order. And then once it's done, it'll do this. Will there be R workshops? Yes, there will.
Yeah.
Phoebe and Lauren will be doing those. So you can, I think they're going to handle a little more advanced topics. UCR likes to teach you some basic R, but they don't go too far into it unless you take Stat 167. So they'll be able to teach you some cool stuff in there. And R is not too far off from Python, so it's a good place to start if you want to learn like both languages. They're pretty much the two main ones you're going to be using for anything like data science related. So if you know those two, you'll be pretty solid.
I had a quick question about the code.
Yeah, of course.
So what are the ends on the left? Because like I was doing it, but like my ends don't look like yours. Like yours went like 28, 44, 36, and mine are just kind of all over the place.
Oh, okay, yeah. These have to do with Jupyter Notebook. I'm not quite sure what
Oh,
they
okay,
mean,
okay. Yeah, I thought maybe.
but they're not relevant to your code, I don't think.
They're not, as long as everything's run before each other. So if there's an order of code that you have to run it in Jupyter Notebook, because it kind of saves all this because Jupyter Notebook runs the block as its own thing in comparison to whatever else was ran before. So if the number 44, for example, line 44, that block was ran farther, way later into whatever you were doing than 28.
Yeah, so I just, if I run the last block right here, it was previously at 45.
Yeah.
It's at 46 now. And if I run this, it's at 47. So it's just keeping track of what the last run thing was, like when it was last.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But it's not super important. And if you work like in any other environment, you probably wouldn't see it.
Yeah, that's true. Like Virtual Studio.
Cool, cool. Is there any other questions? Well, if there isn't, then we appreciate everyone sticking around. This is our first time trying to do something like this, and it's a little harder online, but we appreciate you coming and hearing us. And then, yeah, if you have any feedback, feel free to let us know, and we'll try to improve.
Yeah, let us know. If it's hard to see the code, maybe we'll zoom in a little more next time. You guys want that? Let us know.
Oh, I guess one last thing. We do have a GitHub.
Yeah, that's good.
So you'll be able to get everything we do will be on this GitHub, including what we did today. So if you go to github.com/hiscode, then you'll be able to gather everything we do there. I'll go ahead and share a link in the chat. If you've never used GitHub before, basically what it is just a place to store your code. So you can go ahead and look through what everything looks like. And you can even download it if you want to. But like if I click on it, then I'll go ahead and show all the code there. And you can go ahead and figure it out on your own time if you want to go back and see how things work. And then part of learning the code is just playing around with it. It's really something you learn by doing. So yeah, if you're curious, have at it. So we got a question. This is, when do you guys usually meet up? Right now we're trying to meet up every week. And it usually varies between Tuesday, Thursdays, and Wednesdays. The reason we vary it is because people have different classes at different times. So we just want to give people the opportunity to show up. Even if they have like class on Thursday, they can still come to the Tuesday meetings and stuff like that. So we send out weekly emails that tell when the next workshop's going to be. Do you have access to have you filled out the Google form by any chance? If you haven't, I can go ahead and post it, and then it'll add you to our email list. Yeah, if you can do that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and post it in the chat. You can sign up, and then you'll get a weekly email, and it'll give you the Zoom link every week as long as everything that's going on. So you'll be able to keep up to date. Phoebe's going to post it in the chat right now. Of course, of course.
No worries.
There it is. So yeah, Enrique, if you want to go ahead and look, just go ahead and fill that out, and then you'll be able to keep up to date with us. Cool, cool. Oh, and yeah, I guess Phoebe just linked it. I have a YouTube channel if you want to. I just started it last summer, but I'm pretty into game development. So if you want to learn how to make games in Python, you can check it out. maybe one day we can have a game dev workshop. That'd be fun. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Okay, so yeah, we'll just be around if you guys want to hang out. Otherwise, you're free to go. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, no problem.
No worries.
We'll see you when you see you.
Yeah.
You too.